Gentlemen, when this guy was in his prime, he was in his 40s. He died just recently in his mid 80s. He was probably one of the most dangerous wrestlers that pro wrestling ever saw because he played an effeminate character. He was a shoot fighter from the UK, and he didn't give a shit. And he was really talented, and he had more respect than any other wrestler from the UK besides William Steven Regal than anybody else in wrestling history. Of course, we're talking about the exotic Adrian Street, who passed away July 24th from bout of colitis. This Welsh pro wrestler and author known for his flamboyant, androgynous wrestling persona brought to prominence in the 70s and 80s, drew so much heat that you watch the videos, Special Continental Wrestling Association. There's so much negativity from fans; it's amazing. Street was often accompanied to a ring by his longtime manager and wife, Miss Linda, and the two worked primarily as heels. Now, born on the 5th of December 1940 in Bryn Mawr, South Wales, Street's family was in the coal mining business. His father had been a miner for 51 years, but in his teen years he began bodybuilding. He left home at age 16 and began his pro wrestling career in 1957. His early inspirations were American wrestlers Lou Thesz, Buddy Rogers, and Don Leo Johnson, from whom Street adopted his first moniker, Kid Tarzan Johnson. Now, Street was trained as a pro wrestler by Schick Osman and Mike Dimitri. His first pro wrestling match was on August 8th, 1957. Using the name Kid Tarzan Johnson, Street defeated Jeff Morin. Later in his career, he developed his exotic Adrian Street image, an originally attired, effeminate character who was hinted but never outright stated to be gay. Now imagine this. Makeup, sort of like David Bowie with the hair up, like really bad curls, almost David Bowie meets a modern drag queen. Now Street has explained that his gimmick was born by accident and resulted in playing up to taunting from an audience one evening, commenting, "I was getting far more reaction than ever got just playing this poof. My costume started getting wilder." His wrestling attire evolved to including pastels and glitter, makeup, and clipping his bleached hair into mini pigtails. As the exotic one, his signature move in the ring was to kiss opponents to escape being pinned down and to put makeup on his opponents when they were disabled. He also sang several glam rock songs, such as "Sweet Transvestite with a Broken Nose" and "Imagine What It Could Do to You," the latter being his entrance music. In 1971, he was booked in a match with TV presenter Jimmy Savile. Due to disagreements with booking and after hearing Savile brag about engaging in sexual relations with underage girls, Street legitimately attacked Savile during the match and tore out his hair. Again, a shoot fighter, and that's legendary. There's documentaries on this throughout YouTube. Now, working primarily as a heel, Street traveled all over the world, including wrestling in Germany, Canada, and Mexico. In the UK, he formed a tag team with fellow heel Bobby Barnes, named the Hells Angels. In 69th Street met his future manager valet and real wife Miss Linda Gunthorpe Hawker. During the 1970s, Linda wrestled in Britain as Blackfoot Sue. Later in America, the two formed a double act, Miss Linda becoming one of the professional wrestling's first female valets and frequently participating as an accomplice to Street's in-ring shenanigans. Now, at 5'7", 235, pure Street. Now, they had their North American debut in 1981 when Street was in his early 40s. Appearing in various areas in the territories of North America, they finally settled in Ron Fuller's Continental Championship Wrestling in Birmingham. He worked early on as a heel against Austin Idol, Wendell Cooley, and Novel Austin before turning face in 86. Street was so convincing as a heel that fans stood in shock as Street saved Bob Armstrong under a mask as the Bullet from an attack by Robert Fuller, Jimmy Gold, and Tom Pritchard. Street had a long feud there with the hustler Rip Rogers. He returned to the area shortly before close in summer 89, teaming with Bill Dundee and Todd Morton against RPM, Mike Davis, and a young Mascherino Chono, as well as a feud against Terry Garvin and his partner Mark Goulin, known as Beauty and the Beasts. So Street was building a reputation of being someone not to deal with. Now, he retired from full-time ring work and eventually opened the Skull Crushers Wrestling School in Gulf Breeze, Florida, but it closed because of Hurricane Ivan and damaged there. Now, Street and his wife also in the business of designing and selling pro wrestling gear, and other sundries via the website. He created the ring gear worn by Mick Foley as Dude Love during his feud with Stone Cold Steve Austin. Now, after his last match when he was 74 in 2014 in Birmingham, Street estimated that during his career he had wrestled between 12,000 and 15,000 matches. Now, 2005, he proposed to Miss Linda, and he got married in 2000, the summer of that year, with Donald Leo Johnson as his best man. Now, he did survive a bout of cancer, but recently he had returned to Wales, and he died in his local community's hospital of sepsis because of a bout of colitis. Now, a movie star, he was with Ron Perlman at Quest of Fire in 81. He was also in the Grunt, the wrestling movie, and the 72 hit The Canterbury Tales. Now, he also had a band called the Pile Drivers. He released the LP Shake, Wrestle, and Roll in 86. It compiled two earlier singles, 77 and 80, with a selection of new songs. Now, a photo of Street in full regalia posing on his mine his father worked at features as the front cover of Black Box recorded his debut album, England Made Me. Street has been a subject of numerous documentaries over years as well, and his life story became an episode of the podcast Love and Radio in August 2018. So why Street was so respected, Arn Anderson, Jake Roberts, Mick Foley, everybody else, a typical shoot fighter like William Stephen Regal, didn't mess with this guy. You think you're dealing with a fruit and he could stretch you and mess you up really. He was an interpretive, almost like a dancer. And what's weird about this, ladies and gentlemen, there was kind of a Gorgeous George to him, kind of a Buddy Rogers, Don Leo Johnson, all these things. 5'7", 235 pounds, all British male, all UK male. And let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. He didn't like Stu Hart, what he used to do with the stretcher. And he basically told people, I train people to shoot, but I don't take advantage of me. He never liked Stu Hart. And, you know, all the years, I've never heard of anybody criticize Stu Hart, but because there comes a Major Street, you should take it seriously. So let's go over the titles. All-Star Wrestling, World Middleweight title twice. Cauliflower Alley Club, Gulf Coast honoree. Championship Wrestling from Florida, title one time, NWA Florida. NWA America's Heavyweight Championship and NWA America's Tag Team title holders, twice in NWA Hollywood. Pro Wrestling Illustrated, 171 in the 92 rankings. Mid-South Wrestling, he was TV champion there. Southeastern Championship Wrestling, he was the Northern Division champ 6 times. Southwest Championship Wrestling, he was a junior heavyweight title winner 1 time, and the best gimmick in 86 by Wrestling Observer. So let me put this in perspective, ladies and gentlemen. Imagine you're sitting down with a bunch of rednecks in the southern U.S. They don't like homosexuals. They don't like immigrants. They don't like non-Americans. You've got this brick pansy coming into the ring. And there's a very famous video of him visiting a girl in a hospital who wanted to see him long before John Cena. People were kayfabe on this. They knew Adrian Street as a pansy in the ring, but he knew he could wrestle. He had grudging respect. And you got to understand, he was in his 40s when he was in America. He wasn't even in his prime. WWE, AWA, WCW did not take a full chance in this guy. Why, I don't know. But look at Adrian Adonis. That's a ripoff that went nowhere because he didn't have Adrian Street's personality. But Adrian Street, the way he would present it, if a wrestler was gay, and you look at the current AEW, you have the tag team, one is gay, one is straight. Everything owes Adrian Street. He was playing gay the best way you could to be respectful to the gay side. But I mean, it's like a dandy or something like that. You know what I mean? Like an Oscar Wilde character. Pretty weird. I saw a bunch of his back in the day, and the guy said, see what you got. And one time he was doing kind of calisthenics a lot. Richard Simmons with Jerry Lawler. Has to be seen to believe. And he had a bitty feud with Macho Man for a while too as well. We don't talk about that. So ladies and gentlemen, we're going to miss Adrian Street. What a legend. We should talk more about him. There should be a museum or an archive for all the wrestlers from the 1940s to the early 1990s. What he gave to wrestling. Tremendous. So if you like what we're doing here, ladies and gentlemen, give us a like, comment, subscribe, or share. Have a good one. Bye.